Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chronogamer, and as you might have already guessed by reading the title of this video, it's going to be a recap concerning the events of last weekend. For everyone who's interested in the opinion of some random guy on the internet, there's going to be overly emphasized critique, idiotic analogies, and all of that neatly wrapped in almost no worthwhile content whatsoever. So enjoy! Everything started off with the new enemy, the Karka, attacking the City of Lions Arch because these new consortium fellas were fiddling around in their business. The players, now in danger of losing their favorite source of chat spam and nightly discussions about the varying length of players' respective e-genitalia, were supposed to rally the troops and unite their forces in order to defeat these most villainous of enemies. All of that a fairly good starting point for a truly epic weekend, if it weren't for the performance issues. To give you just a slight sense of the magnitude of lag that players had to suffer through, think back to the days when you heard that lovely beeping sound whenever you tried to log onto the internet, and you had to stop everything you were doing once someone in the family wanted to make a phone call. You know, the simple days. Now imagine you were loading a website written in simple HTML, and one of those dim-wit web designers, if you could even call them that, decided to put in lots of flashy animated text. It took fucking ages to load. But at the time of the first event, I would have gladly gone back to begging my beeping modem friend for shorter loading times. So what exactly has happened there? The Karka started attacking and everybody was hungry for crab lag. But once they were in places where we could attack them, everything went to hell. I pressed an attack, nothing happened. I pressed another one, again nothing. After a while my action bar was lighting up like a Christmas tree and I happily skipped through the enemy lines without any reaction whatsoever. After a minute or two we experienced a number of different outcomes resulting from the previously pressed buttons. The most common one was your death. Sometimes you saw a whole bunch of abilities going off at once, but probably the most entertaining one would have to be your character continuously dodging for about 10 seconds, which kind of reminded me of children doing 20 cartwheels in a row just to puke in the neighbor's favorite rose bushes afterwards. Anyhow, once we had somehow managed to, despite the lag issues, push back the Karka, the ancient Karka himself decided to make a graceful departure and ripped off the Lion's Arch lighthouse in the process. Following this, there were a bunch of scavenger hunt-like events which were supposed to shed some light on the reasons of the Karka attack. These were another rather disappointing part. Some of the NPCs seemed to just not give a damn about the thing they just asked you for a few minutes ago. At times, the people you had to search for just didn't want to cooperate with you at all, but hey, whatever, just trying to save the world and every one of you idiots in it. Let's just say there were a lot of bugs, and I personally gave up rather quickly, so I can't say much about the fixes ArenaNet put in for some of the issues. Let's get to day 2. It all started off quite similar to the first day. The Karka attacked Lion's Arch again, but this time we had the means to destroy their shells. It was still janky as hell, but the performance had greatly improved if you compare it to the first day. Since we were able to kill them a bit easier, we managed to push them back quite quickly, and once we had done this, it was time to invade the enemy's territory, the South Sun Cove. One thing that greatly improved the performance on this island was the simple but nonetheless brilliant idea to make you choose one out of 2 starting locations, and therefore splitting up the masses. Although there were still some lag issues left in comparison to the previous day, it felt like a silky dream. Our objectives on this island were not just to fight off the Karka, but also to assist in building encampments, roads and bridges. It was quite interesting to arrive to a completely uninhabited area and be part of the building process itself. One major upside of this being a one-time only event was that you witnessed the roads and bridges being built right in front of you, and from one second to another you could suddenly jump across the beams of a not yet completed bridge where previously you'd just fall down the giant canyon. It was rather refreshing to see the process, which changed the landscape for everyone, instead of just being shoved off to an instant version of the map where everything was already in place. Of course, it was rather entertaining as well to see the impatient people trying to show their jumping skills on a half-finished bridge and watched them fall to their death. On the third day, everybody was eagerly awaiting the final event, which ArenaNet urged us so insistently not to miss. The adventures began with us fighting our way into the main Karka nest in order to blow it all up from the inside. I personally had some luck because I experienced almost no lag issues concerning my character or my abilities. I heard completely different stories from some other players, but I personally was quite okay with the performance. The problem that I noticed is that while my group was fighting their way through the nest, we suddenly had up to 5 additional champion Karkas spawn right behind us. You might think that this was deliberate, but it just felt a bit out of place for the Karka to suddenly assume the role of a sneaky race. In addition, I have to mention that these sudden spawns almost always wiped out half of the group, sometimes even before we were able to see them. After we finished setting all the explosives, it was time to get the ancient Karka in there as well. In order to accomplish this task, we had a variety of means. We had to chop down a tree which then fell on him, put stones in a geyser that then shot those stones at the ancient Karka, used trapped explosives gas, and even some mortars. He himself, however, had the means to annoy the shit out of us as well. The from now on probably well-known and dreaded reinforcement phase. The reason this phase was so annoying is that it combined pure boredom with seemingly endless repetition. Karka after Karka came and helped their leader, and there were no real interesting things other than just keep beating the shit out of them. After a while, we, despite their reinforcements, managed to get the ancient Karka to the proper location, only to find out that the explosives were now put into webbings. But after the excruciatingly long battle we had to suffer through before, this was only a tiny setback. Just a quick trip to the top of the Karka nest, a few attacks on the webbings, and everything was settled. Directly afterwards, the ancient Karka, high as fuck, thinking he's a wheel and shit, rolled down to the bottom of the nest, conveniently hitting every last one of the explosives on the way. Once he had arrived at the bottom, he lost all of his shell and the crab legs seemed ripe for the picking. After punching him in the face for a while, he went down and everybody had to kind of finish him by stomping on the ground and with this revealing the lake of lava underneath. Since he didn't seem to like being boiled alive, he tried to escape, but all of his efforts were futile. And with the ancient Karka dead, there was only one thing left to do: getting the loot. Almost always a rather happy subject, but I have some critique here as well. There was some pretty decent loot in the chest, which included the chance of some legendary precursors. The problem is that this wasn't known beforehand, and many people therefore chose to join the event with their alts in order to get some levels out of this. In and of itself, a great idea, but due to this, they didn't even have the chance to get one of the precursors, and since this was a one-time only event, they will never have it again. After all that critique, let's get to a happier note: the content that came with the patch. And here I can do nothing but applaud ArenaNet. The PvP map, the Temple of the Silent Storm, is just great. The buffs make for an interesting new mechanic and can really turn a game around. And the vertical element of the map opens up completely new strategic possibilities. The only complaint I can think of is that the map might be a bit too large for 5v5, at least in comparison with the other maps. It's not the map size itself, but rather the amount of space that originates from the multiple vertical levels. But whether or not I'm correct in that assumption will only show itself once the map is up for coordinated team play. If you want to know a bit more about the new PvP map, the Temple of the Silent Storm, you can click on the annotation you're seeing right now. This will bring you to a little beginner's guide I did on that map already. The other great thing that came with the Lost Shores content patch is the new dungeon, the Fractals of the Mist. Not only is it a dungeon that finally offers a competitive option with its never-ending difficulty levels, but in addition, the mechanics of the fights are just really entertaining. It's a big improvement on the old dungeons, which according to Chris Whiteside might be getting an improvement in the future as well. I have to admit that some of the mechanics in play have long been standard stuff for World of Warcraft, but the combination with the unquestionably better combat system makes it into a whole new experience. Stealing the good stuff and leaving the bad from other games, then throw in some of your own innovation, this just has proven over and over again to be the way to create good games, and it appears to be the case with GW2 as well. The last thing on the agenda would be the new island itself, but I haven't really gotten into it, so I'm just gonna leave it out for another video and bring this one to an end. So thank you for watching. Let me know whether or not you enjoyed this video via the like or dislike button, or just leave your opinions in the comments. If you want to see more, you can just subscribe and also follow me on Twitter, where I announce all my new videos as well as my live streams. That's all for today. My name is Chronic Gamer. I'll see you next time.